Hi everyone, and welcome to week 5 of these Weeknotes. This is it, I've officially made it more than 1 month, feel pretty happy about that. For those who don't know what Weeknotes are, these are weekly videos and blog posts, super short, just recapping what's happened in my week, to share any learnings that I have really transparently and openly, and also to share what I'm working on next week, or what I think I'm working on next week. These might go really well, they might go really horribly, I'm not really too sure. But if you're enjoying what you see, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're interested. Alright, so let's get into the content. So the first section of learnings I have, or things that have happened this week, all link back to the phrase, bring out your dead. And this to me is one of my favourite phrases, and we'll get onto it in a sec, but just some context behind that phrase. This week, we had our first client show and tell. Now we have end of day catch-up sessions with the clients at the end of every day, sort of with our leads and their leads. And so there's been a daily update into what's going on, but we haven't had the opportunity to share everything, like really deep dive. I think it was an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of time, and it was great. In terms of the show and tell this week, we have 3 big kind of pieces that we were showing, and I gave a really short intro, kind of emceed the whole thing, and then the folks in the team who were working on those 3 elements, they were there and they presented them, and they did an amazing job of that. And some of the client feedback we got was this fantastic phrase that was, thank you for bringing out your dead. And to me, that I was like, what? Oh yeah, the dead are over there in the graveyard. No. What we mean by bringing out your dead is that the ability to show your work before you show this polished artifact or output. Similar to how you would do it with math or maths homework, where you would get 1 or 2 points for the correct answer, right? The output, the artifact, the thing that you're there to do. And you absolutely do need to get that right. But you'd get more points, so you get 3 points or 4 points for showing your workings out. And that's the dead bit, right? Because you might have loads of crosses out through sections. There might be bits where actually you go, don't go down that avenue, it's not worth it. And for me, the phrase bring out your dead kind of relates back to this maths homework piece that I've just described, because it's really interesting, sharing that helps leave the client and the folks who you're working with in a better place. Yes, we provide them with whatever output or artifact is needed, and that's great, but that's the basics, right? If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be in the consulting or client-facing world. But it's more than that, how can we leave the client and the organisations who we work with in a slightly better place? And if we're able to kind of teach them and show the teams who we're working with where we have personally failed, I think that shows a level of maturity to say yeah, we did fail and that's completely fine. But also more than that, it says that, well, here's how, basically don't make the same mistakes as us, right? Don't go up the up ramp of a motorway, it's really bad. All that sort of stuff. And I'm a really big fan of trying to leave the world in a better place than you found it. So from now on, I'm always going to be bringing out my dead. So the second section of things I want to talk about is prepping for a post-pandemic world. There was a bit of conversation today with the clients I work with, or this week rather, with the clients I work with and the teams I work with, about what they were most looking forward to and what they'd booked in, and gigs they were going to and holidays they were planning and all this sort of stuff. And it got me thinking, what's the first thing that I'm willing to kind of commit to, at least in the outside real world? And for me this week tickets came up for the interactive Van Gogh exhibition, or Van Gogh, I don't know how to pronounce that, but their art is great, and it's an interactive exhibition, so you go and sit in these deck chairs and it kind of displays their work all around you, and it's really interactive and it just looks really cool. The first date that I'm willing to commit to is November 2021. That's the first earliest date that, at least right now, I feel comfortable that, yeah, we're going to do it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Unfortunately, I don't think, in my personal opinion, that this pandemic is nearly over. looking at the data, to me, it looks like we've only just started to recover from this Christmas break we took, which caused a huge spike in infections and deaths. Point number 2 to this is that I'm also not eligible for the vaccine, and neither is my housemate, who was classed as high risk in the first lockdown, because both of us haven't been hospitalised due to our conditions in the last 2 years, which seems like a kind of arbitrary thing, right? Like, if we've had letters to say please self-isolate, and then you haven't been hospitalised, so sorry you don't get a vaccine. And the third point to this is that vaccine supply themselves are super limited for at least the next few weeks. And all those 3 things combined, I just don't see it ending very soon. I don't have any bets as to when it might end. I just know that November 2021, I hope to be inside of the Van Gogh exhibition and hope to be enjoying myself. However, don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. I'm using the remaining time in lockdown to get both my personal life and my professional life back in order before kind of escaping back into the wider world. So from a personal perspective, I've got 3 things that I'm focused on doing. These might sound really trivial and boring, and I'm sorry for that, but here you go. Number 1, I'm going to be growing out my fringe. It's really long already. Apologies in advance, I will complain a lot about this. I'll say that I can't see properly because my hair is in my eyes, but it will be worth it, I'm sure. Number 2, I'm going to get my skincare routine back in order, thanks to Prefasal. So I talked to this group of awesome skin people the other week, and they gave me this new skincare routine and suggested a couple of products that I might be able to do. So I've purchased some of those products and I have incorporated those into my skincare routine, and you'll see a couple of spots on my face, but they are related to masks that I've been wearing when outside. Apart from that, I'm a week in, and so far my skin's feeling better, at least, so that's good. But I know this stuff takes a good couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to kind of bed in. So I will give an update maybe in a couple of weeks' time, more into my experiences with Prefasal and their recommendations. The last piece is about getting back on my exercise routine. I really need to do this. I've been slacking for at least the last month, and that's not very good. I've been going for walks probably at least twice a day, once over lunchtime and once just after work. So there's been something there, don't worry, I have left the house, it's okay. But I'd like to get back into the exercise routine as well. There are also lots of professional things that I'd like to do during this time, before I think the pandemic might be over. So number 1, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine who I used to work with last week, and they said something really interesting to me. They asked me how my business cluster consulting was going. I said it was going really well. I had a client, it was 4 days a week. That left 3 days a week for me to work on my own stuff, and during that time I was thinking about writing a book. And they suggested, hold on a minute, Jess, what you've done here is you've taken the big bang approach. I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, you're being silly, you need to take an MVP approach to writing a book. And then it hit me, they were completely right. I was focused on doing this big bang launch in a couple of months' time with this book that I would have spent ages writing. And actually, what I can do is I can split that book, or the ideas that I wanted to put inside of that book, and instead write a couple of lengthy blog posts as a way of kind of getting my ideas and the sirens that are in London into other people's brains as quickly as possible, and kind of gauge their feedback and be able to amend that over time. It's not to say I'm not going to write a book, but it's to say that what's the point doing a big bang release of something and not knowing it's going to work? So instead, expect to see a couple of blog posts from me. Number 2, I'm going to be writing and recording my huge backlog of YouTube videos. And the third thing I'm doing for my professional life is submitting applications to speak at events. I've been asked to speak at a couple of smaller events, and I've really enjoyed them. I think it's been really, really fun. Number 1, kind of sharing my ideas and getting feedback from people, but also being able to kind of meet with groups of people that I wouldn't have normally been able to meet with was really, really interesting to me. So I'm going to be submitting kind of more formal applications to speak at events, kind of have a pre-set of ideas to go take with me. Okay, so that's it. What's happening next week in my life? Firstly, our first big client deliverable is due next week, at the end of next week, so there'll be lots of hard work, no doubt, in this week ahead in order to hit that deadline. This second one I'm bringing in from last week, and I'm actually going to do it this week. I'm going to review my Q1 professional and personal OKRs, or objectives and key results. I couldn't record a video because of the building work, but I will be recording a video next week on the understanding that the building work doesn't continue. And the third thing is I'm going to take a draft of the Cluster Consulting's book that I've created and instead kind of divvy that up into blog posts and look to distribute those and share those online. So watch out for those, they should be really interesting. If it sounds like something you're interested in, perhaps follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be sharing those elements there. I'm at JessBuildsTech because sometimes I build technology. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or something like that, just press the like button and subscribe. Thanks, have a lovely day. Bye bye.